Welcome to the latest episode of Claw's Corner. On today's episode, you get two great guests for the low price of one. My first guest is a director, producer, writer, and editor. His movies include The Mean One, Bury Me Twice, Powerpuff Girls The Long Way Back, the award-winning Balance of the Force, the television miniseries Night Watch, and many, many more. My second guest is an actress, producer, stuntwoman, and writer. Her movies include The Mean One, Balance of the Force, Memory Lane, Powerpuff Girls, The Long Way Back, as well as the television series The Wasteland, In Their Shoes, A Journey into Homelessness, Night Watch, and many, many more. Their latest collaboration, Screamboat, which is their love letter to Disney and a silly symphony of slaughter, began streaming, or should I say screaming, on May 2nd. As of this writing, Screamboat is #2 on Amazon, only behind Sinners, and on the front page for streaming. So as you can see, we have a lot to talk about. Let's get right to it. Please welcome Hollywood's newest and coolest power couple, Stephen LaMorte and Amy Schumacher, to the Claw's Corner. Amy, Stephen, how the hell are you?
Hey, we're great. Hopefully deserving of that awesome intro.
Yeah.
Oh, you definitely are. That was just like the Reader's Digest abridged version. You have done so much, the two of you, and I love it. And you know what I love? As I've been following you two on Facebook, you two are so much fun. And with this movie, Screamboat, it's not only a movie, you're turning this to an event and all these different parties. Now, recently, I want to talk about what happened last night. It was Hot Wings and Horror AMA or live AMA. What was that all about?
Oh man, we did a live Ask Me Anything. So we had four of our cast members and Steven, and we ate hot wings while we answered fan questions live, and it was spicy.
It got spicy. Yeah. I don't do well with spicy food. And by the end, I was in pain. And I said, you know what, let's just lean into this. And man,
really went for it.
I felt it this morning. That's all I'll say.
See, I'm just the opposite. I love spicy. I actually won several wing eating contests. I would have loved to have been there. I would have asked you so many questions. I would have eaten so many wings. But
Nice.
so I love the fact you did that. And also, there's so many different things going on. You also have a Screamboat escape room. What's that?
Yes,
Yeah.
well, we're big. It was important to us that we made the movie be sort of a big screen, fun thrill ride, and so we really wanted to have something that was immersive, and we love escape rooms. And the super awesome company approached us about having a Screamboat escape room, and we helped them not only design the story and the set elements, but we also filmed pieces for it. So Amy's actually in the pre-show, and you may have a special appearance from some other cast members that are in the movie. And when you're playing the escape room, it's like you're actually on the ferry living parts of the movie. It's super fun.
It's the accuracy of some of the elements that they put together feel like taking us right back to being on the boat. It's really cool.
Now, where is this? Is it in California?
Fullerton, California.
I need to start a GoFundMe for Connecticut, where I live.
Yeah,
You want a
yeah.
Screamboat escape room over here?
Yeah, well, we shot the movie on the East Coast, and anytime we have to do something in California, we're like, oh, our whole crew is in New York and New Jersey and Philadelphia, so we're like, oh man, we have to do more East Coast stuff. Our coffee drink was over here, and we're like, oh man, we really need to step up our game on the East
Yeah.
Coast. It's a New York movie.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Well, actually, I mentioned that it was a love letter to Disney. I want to say it's definitely a love letter to New York as well. Without giving anything away, that one scene on the ferry with the cop rallying everybody, I could tell that since you wrote it, you two are definitely lovers of New York.
Yes, definitely. It's, sometimes you have an idea for something, and that was one of the first things I wrote was I was like, I want to do like an expletive laden hype speech that only someone from New York could say, and hopefully even people that aren't from New York would get. And we cast the amazing Jesse Cove to play the police officer who gives that great speech, and I want to make it my ringtone. It was so much fun to shoot, and he brought it. He went for it. He's like, "You want me to go big?" And we're in the audition, and we're like, "Yeah, let's." There's nothing subtle about this. About this, go for it. And I think he did a great job.
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, I saw it twice in the theater and once streaming, and every time that happened, like, yeah, I had to jump up.
Nice. Oh, I love to hear that.
Oh, I love it. I saw it on opening night by myself. The next day, I told my friend and her daughter, they're like, what can we see? I said, come on, you got to see this movie, Screamboat. It's great. After it was over, they're like, we want to see it again. And it was great watching the people in the theater going crazy, screaming at all the right parts, laughing at all the right parts. So
That's so awesome. I
That's
mean,
so cool.
it's the one sort of downside. We love that with streaming, anyone, anywhere on a mountain in a basement can see the movie, but this is one of those films you just want to see with an audience. You want to, laugh when the kills are big and ridiculous. You want to, like, people are catching the in jokes and pointing them out and whispering to each other, "Oh, that's this," so, getting the Disney references and stuff. So I'm glad you got to see it with an audience, because it's a lot of fun, and that's the way it was meant to be seen.
Well, I'm so glad. That's why I saw it once and I saw it again the next day. Question for you, because I was talking to Charles Edwin Powell about this, who was in the movie, and I said, I don't know if you did it intentionally, but it's genius. Where I live, it only played for a week, but I thought that was great only because word of mouth, people are like, "What's that movie? What'd you go see? What'd you go see?" And then when it wasn't playing anymore, like, "Shit, I got to see this movie." And then they went to streaming right away. So was that intentional, or was that just the deal you had with theaters?
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, they're, as independent films, we're constantly fighting for space, both conceptually and physically.
Yeah.
And with the great success of Minecraft,
Minecraft.
they definitely, wanted to give more screens to that. And the studios have all the leverage. It doesn't really matter what movie they're putting out. They say, hey, if you don't give us more screens for Minecraft, we're not going to give you whatever thing they're going to come out with next. So they always tend to get their way. And for us, I think consolidating our audience and getting as many people to see it as possible and having those rooms be full was fantastic. But there is something cool about, oh, well, if you missed it, you're going to have to watch it on streaming. And, then it becomes sort of a thing people can own and take ownership of and have watch parties and stuff. So it's different, but it's cool.
Yeah. Here's one thing I don't get, because back in the 70s, I remember seeing Jaws in 75. I was 7 years old. That movie, no exaggeration, that and Star Wars played for 5 years in the theater. And back then they only had one or two theaters. Now they have 15 theaters in one multiplex, and they can't make room for an independent movie in just one theater out of the 15 theaters. So I don't know. I think that they should keep it in there, and there is definitely an audience for independent movies, and people love seeing that. But I said, from what I saw, it worked perfectly in your favor from what I saw.
Thank you.
And we agree with you, but it did work out. And we're so glad we were able to get it on streaming so quickly after that as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once we saw that there was sort of that demand and people really wanted to see it and see it soon, all the wheels were already in motion, and we moved the date up, and, within a month of being in theaters, we were right there, and people could see it in their home theaters and, be a part of the movement.
Well, this is a perfect time for me to interview you two, and I'll tell you what I mean. Because one of my favorite directors, writers, editors is Robert Rodriguez. I love his movies, and years ago he came out with a book called Rebel Without a Crew. He just came out with an updated version, so I listened to it on audio, and it was so great having him fill in the blanks of, like, oh yeah, because it was updated, so he was able to say, oh, I remember when I wrote this. This is what happened since then. You two remind me of exactly what he did, because I'm not sure if you know the story. Like, it was all about El Mariachi. He was just making movies at the time just to get practice. He had no intention of anybody watching that movie, and he made it into the Guinness Book of World Records because that's the lowest budget movie that Columbia Pictures ever bought, for $7,000. They loved it so much. It was just made to be a trailer, and they're like, we need to see the whole movie. And I just love the fact that you two make these low budget movies that look big budget. They're hilarious. They have great acting, great sets. And if I didn't know it was low budget, I'd be like, wow, this is like a big budget movie. So it's an ultimate compliment what I'm telling you. It's like, you two remind me of Robert. And then he also owns his own production company, just like you two do.
Thank you.
That's a compliment.
That's a huge compliment. I read that book when I was in film school. So I have a hard copy back when that was a thing. People bought books and read them.
What is that?
I read that book on the Staten Island ferry, fun fact. So I know exactly which book you're talking about. And yeah, I mean, that's so much of the DNA of us being sort of independent producers, especially in the independent space. You have to wear a lot of hats, but we like wearing a lot of hats. I mean, there's some moments when your hands are covered in fake blood or chocolate syrup, or you have to spray paint a prop, or this last minute thing has to get worked out. And once you create it and you put it on screen, there are like union rules that in a large set would not allow me to go into my backyard and start taking the power drill or a spray paint out. It's comfortable to sit in a chair and ask people for things. I love taking meetings and showing drawings and be like, yes, you go do it. But sometimes it's fun to get our hands dirty. And when something's done, we may be a little grayer than we started, but I think there is something really cool of that ownership of we poured our blood, sweat, and tears into this film, and you can literally see it on screen because like I filmed that shot. We have a DP, but that shot was filmed by us in our bathroom, and now it's in the, up on the big screen, and no one would ever know.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. So, like him, did you write the script around what you have available and what you have right there in the moment? And also, since you're a stunt woman, you could do a lot of stunts yourself. Like, well, I'm gonna have Amy do this. I'm gonna have Amy fall 3 flights off the Staten Ferry and see what. So, did you write a lot of the story around what you had and who you were working with?
I think when we were developing the story, and Stephen wrote it with Matthew Dunn as well. So I think when we were developing it, and with each iteration, we were taking into consideration what we know we're good at, what we know we can pull off really well.
Mhm.
We have some sort of special skills in that we do action well, we do stunts well, we can do, Stephen's so good at the VFX and understanding post-production. So we lean into that so that our lower budget movies can look bigger budget,
Yeah.
because we know that my character can trip and fall or whatever, and we don't need to bring in the stunt team or a double or whatever and do that sort of thing. Or we can sort of adapt it and work it ourselves. Or when we're making Steamboat Willie small, 3 feet tall, Steven on set knows how we need to shoot it, what we need to get. So as we were writing the script and working through what the script was going to look like, we understood, like, well, we can pull this off because we have this skill set. And then we'll bring in and incorporate these other really great, the gore team and the fuzz on the lens guys, and be able to capitalize on our skills. So I don't know that we wrote with what we had, but we wrote with like the skills we knew we could capitalize on.
Yeah.
And also my familiarity with riding the Staten Island ferry,
Yeah.
because the boat that we use in the movie is decommissioned. So even if you ride the ferry now, it's not the same layout. So it's kind of, we're using the photos we have and the scouts we did, but something that is an integral, huge part of the movie is that at one point a door has to be locked. And for safety and fire reasons, there are no lockable doors on the ferry other than the things that keep the passengers away from, the maintenance areas. So we got to the boat, and it's this linchpin is that this door has to be locked. And we're looking and we're like, oh my God, there's no lockable door. All of the ferries now have like storm doors, so they can cordon off certain areas, but this one didn't have it. So we said, okay, that's a little bit of an oversight. So we went to the art team, and they had to pull a door from outside. They pulled a handle from another area. Then they built a wall. Then they matched the colors. Then they painted this whole thing. And the guy that owns the boat was walking around, and he's like, oh wow, you really have a whole thing set up. And he's like, there didn't used to be a door here. And we're like, don't worry, it's temporary. And he was like, really? I said, oh yeah. And you knock on it, you're like, it's just plywood, don't worry, it's coming down. He's like, I think that's a fire hazard. I said, yep, that's why it's not permanent.
Nothing to see here. Keep moving. Keep moving.
Right, right.
Yes.
Well, just like Steven Spielberg filming the orca and Jaws on the ocean, there's pros and cons to making it look real. Did you have the same issue filming the Staten Island ferry on the water live instead of using green screens and things like that to make it easier for you with CGI?
We were so grateful that we were able to shoot on the decommissioned ferry, because it meant we could really take it over and cover the windows or shoot it, all day long for multiple days. And it's very cool that you can actually shoot on the moving Staten Island ferry. So you just have to get off on each side. So we wouldn't have been able to shoot the entire movie just on the actual functioning ferry. That would be impossible. But we were able to do sort of a combination of both. And then, we didn't use green screen for the boat, but you can speak to that because you do that stuff.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of elements that, because most of the movie was shot on water but docked, where we had some of the downsides of being on a boat, which is it's swayed, and when big freight boats went by, you would feel the boat move and the skyline would move. But then there's the pluses, which is that if you want to get off the boat, you can. But then there's the downsides of the boat seats 3,000. So it's a giant ship.
Massive.
So if you're all the way in the captain's deck, you are as far from the bathroom as you could possibly be. So if you left something in the dressing rooms, which are, trailers all the way at the backside on land, it's like, okay, I'll be back in 10 minutes. And because the boat is symmetrical, sometimes the crew would get lost because they'd be walking, 20, 30, 40 feet in the wrong direction, and then they'd see that there's no land there, and they'd go, oh no, and you have to turn around and go all the way back.
We had covered the windows because it was dark throughout the entire movie, but we shot some of it during the day. But the Staten Island ferry never turns around. So it goes and then they just, sail back and forth in one direction, really. So it was really messed with your mind. Unless you had like a landmark to understand which way you were going, it could be very tricky.
A lot of unnecessary steps, that's for sure.
Yep, I can imagine. Well, David Howard Thornton is great as always, and as he is in every movie. Is that true that you actually cast him before you even started writing the script?
We cast him before we finished the script.
Okay.
So I had the story laid out and we knew
Okay.
what the movie was and my take on it and what it was going to be. But yes, we brought him on early before we had a final script because the script needed to be written. We're an independent film, right? We don't have a magic wand or a VFX button we can hit and make the mouse do backflips. It needs to be based on not only the makeup and the techniques we're going to use, but the performer and the performance. So it was important that we locked in the man for whom the role was written, David Howard Thornton, early, because based on who was in that suit and what their physical and emotional capabilities are, that would determine how I would finalize what the mouse is going to do in the movie. So it actually, in some ways, people are like, oh, you wanted to get him first before you went any further with the movie. I needed to make sure that our Willie would be able to perform and do the things that were written. So once we knew we had David and he started to express his love for the character and, looking at the cartoons for the poses and the noises and the whistling, then we were able to really say, okay, now we can flesh this out and not just make the character, a slasher or an avatar for the cartoon, but I know David's going to play it. Let's really play to his strengths. And then when he got to set, he started improvising and he took it to the next level. And that's how we have the murder mouse we have today.
I love it. Well, speaking of that, people are even starting drinking games because of all the nods to Disney. From what I heard, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was like around 33 Easter eggs for and people, every time you get an Easter egg, let me take a shot. And so, I loved it. Like I said, it's a love letter to Disney. It's a horror movie. It's a comedy. It's a drama. There's so much going on there. And Amber, the EMT, you were great. And also, I love too, the whole cast was great, but I love the girl whose birthday it was. It's my birthday! Come on! She was hilarious.
Cindy, yeah.
She's so funny. Thank you.
Do you use the same crew for all your movies?
When we shoot in LA, we use a lot of the same people. On this one, we partnered with Fuzz on the Lens, which we had worked with before, never in this large capacity, but Steve went to high school with them. So we knew them. And then we brought our core production team that we love to work with. So yes and no, because the Fuzz team works with each other over and over again. And we brought our people that we work with over and over again, and we sort of blended families.
Yeah.
And they had all just come off of Terrifier 3. So they had just finished shooting Terrifier 3. They all had their Terrifier 3 crew shirts. So all the behind the scenes footage is Terrifier 3 Christmas hat crew shirts. I don't even think they sell them. I think it was just crew only. So yeah, they were all coming in fresh. And we had worked with many of those, the people that were on that set in the past when we would go to New York and filming commercials or other little spots that we had done. But this was the first time we just plucked the Terrifier team and brought them in and, had them for 25 days on the boat.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of interviewing Michael Levy and also Leanna Parala, who was one of the, so those two are great. And we are talking about that movie and Stream and Terrifier 3. I love, so you went to high school with Jason and Michael?
Yeah, I went to high school with Jason, Michael, and Steve De La Sala. So we all were shooting videos and doing skits on the Staten Island ferry. Actually, that exact boat when we were in high school. It's pretty wild to think that not only are we still shooting videos and still making jokes and still making horror films, but that's the actual boat we used to ride when we would, let's go to Manhattan. We didn't have cars. We were under 18. So we're like, let's go to Manhattan and shoot a sketch at here, over there. And so that's the boat we took back in the day to ride into Manhattan. And we shot interviews. I think one of our teachers still has this footage. He must, of us interviewing people on the Staten Island ferry. You got to find it because it's such a trip of standing on that same boat with a lot less grays and a lot less facial hair, doing the same stupid stuff with maybe a little bit thicker of an accent. I mean, it's wild.
I love the fact that both of you or DIY, do it yourself. You create your own companies, Fuzz and Lens Productions, Sleight of Hand Productions, and also, I'm not sure if it's still together. You can tell me, Amy Rose Productions. Do you still do that, Amy?
I do. I think we've more melded because we've been producing so much together
Yeah.
that I've just
Yeah.
started producing more, I guess, as sleight of hand. And all of the little Amy Rose productions, it's actually how we met, was short films and little action films, sword fighting films and stuff like that. So now we've evolved.
I love it. So speaking of special effects and CGIs, you didn't even use a blue green screen for the Steamboat Willie. How did you create that effect of small David?
Well, there is some green screen. There's always going to
Okay.
be some green and some blue
Okay.
screen. I mean, we used it was really a melding of classic filmmaking techniques as well as modern cutting edge technology. I mean, we did everything from forced perspective and puppetry and wire work, just like they would have on Darby O'Gill's or any of the sort of classic
Yeah.
Disney 1960s color Mary Poppins style magic tricks. But then we also had Mandalorian style virtual LED wall work that we did, where we would project the plates behind David, where we would use oversized props like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I mean, it really, if we're on set, we'd have David has a stunt double that's a puppet that's about, Willie's actual size. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it really just depended from shot to shot what made the most sense and which technique was going to help us bring the mouse to life. And that's what was so fun is that some instances you're sitting in a monitor and you're watching a giant man and he looks tiny and he's holding a little prop and he's fighting Amy, but Amy's holding a giant pole and he's holding a giant sword and they're fighting each other. And other instances we're working with miniatures, we're working with a puppet and we're on set. But the most fun thing is being able to sit there with the crew at the screen and look and say, no, it's working. We're getting it. There's no like guesswork. Oh, maybe, I hope, or we'll see later, or look over there and maybe no, I mean, we're really doing it. I mean, the hardest thing is probably for David. He likes to say that he didn't work with any of the cast, but he did.
Yeah.
It's just the cast members that he's working with are 20, 30, 40, 50 feet in front of him to make sure his perspective is right. So, the guy that's getting choked is right up in front of the camera and he's acting like he's being choked with a small cable. Then David is 50 feet back holding a giant cable, acting like he's choking him. They're trying to move in sync. David can't see. He can't hear because he's got his ears bolted in. He's wearing these contacts. I get it. It seems like he's by himself.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude, you were there with these actors. They're just really far away and you're moving in sync like some demented sleigh ride. I mean, it's a blast. It's super fun. But you can see it on screen because it's practical filmmaking and you're getting it. And everyone can take pictures on their phones, even though I asked them not to. And you're like, we're excited, and that's what matters.
Oh yeah, no, well, it's definitely very effective, and if you didn't tell me how it was done, I never would have guessed that that's how you did it. It was very effective. And speaking of people that were excited about the movie, I love this. I saw this on Facebook. Ryan Coogler, who did Sinners recently, he also did Creed, Black Panther. He had something exciting to say about Screamboat. Somebody asked him a question about it, and what was his reaction?
Yes, he said he was fired up. He was excited. I mean, that's the really the cool thing, the power of the internet is when I meet new filmmakers and they're like, oh, what can I do? How do I, get a movie off the ground? And I say that nowadays with the power of the internet, like one good idea really can go far because we've got big screen dreams. And of course our movie's playing all around the world, which is awesome, but we do not have a huge studio marketing budget. So for someone like Ryan Coogler, who is at the top of his game, making huge, like aspirational movies that we could be very fortunate to collaborate with and be in at some point, for him to be aware of our independent film is nuts.
Yeah.
And for him to the people that are interviewing him who are like, oh my God, you have to see this movie. And he's like, oh yeah, I heard about it. Like, yeah, I'm fired up. That sounds good. It's like crazy. We're over here, doing our own, like working on new projects in pen and paper and like trying to make time to do all of our podcasts and our social media posting. And they're aware of the movie and excited. That is bananas. It's just crazy. I have a hat. I have my own hat. That's like one independent film is in Hot Topic the week the movie comes out. That doesn't make any sense. It's wild. It's been such a fun ride.
I know, I love it. And I remember years ago when going back to Spielberg, when Jaws came out, he would sneak into the theater just to get the audience reaction. But now with social media and everything, and I saw this on Facebook, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the scene. You took people's reaction of watching the scene. If people have not seen this movie, you're in for a wild ride. You got to check it out. That scene alone.
You'll
But,
know it when you see it.
yeah, but you now, well, I want to keep it a surprise. I'm sure most of the people that are watching this probably already saw it or know of it. But if they're the one or two people who didn't see it, watch it right now, right after this interview. Then go watch it. But I love the fact that you were able to do that and get people's reaction of the movie, because he said, do you, when you were first starting making movies and even now, do you just go into the theaters, sold out crowd, and just walk around and where nobody knows who you are, and just to get the reaction, see what they're doing?
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
The first couple of fan screenings we did for this movie, even, we're just so nervous
Yeah.
because you don't know what the audience reaction is going to be like. And it's really hard to watch your work or watch yourself up on screen and watch other people watch it. But once we hear the first laugh, like that first laugh in the theater, then we know we're in for what's going to be just such a fun experience.
Yeah.
And so as we were doing, we did a lot of Q&As, special screenings here in Los Angeles. And so we would go in and sneak in to watch certain scenes or watch the whole movie with the audience, because to me, that's like the most fun, to hear them laugh. And when everyone laughs in unison at the same time, we're like, oh, they got the joke.
Yeah.
Or my character says some kind of corny puns, references. And when they laugh, or it's like a slow burn laugh, it brings me joy.
Yeah, no, definitely. As I mentioned, I had Charles Edwin Powell on the show, and he left this interview early to go to a screening. I think it was in New Jersey. It was one of the first screenings you had, and afterwards we were talking about it. He said it was so much fun, and he loves going to the conventions. So, what the convention I go to, because I'm in Connecticut, is Chiller, New Jersey. Do you and the rest of the cast members have any aspirations of doing the conventions in that area?
I think we want to do as many conventions as we can. We're sort of new to the convention circuit. We started, I guess, 3 or 4 months ago when we were doing the first fan screenings for this and building the hype for this movie, what we called our road show. But I think we want to do as many as we can coming up, especially since more people have seen the movie now. I think we want to talk to the fans. We want to hear their experience of it too.
Yeah.
See them in our t-shirts.
Well, speaking of fan experience, I love this, and I thought it was hilarious, and I want to repeat it for people who have not seen it. It says, there was somebody that put, see the live-action movie people say is ruining an iconic animated classic, and then when you're done with that other film, go see Screamboat.
Look, people have this idea that we're not fans of Disney. Like, if they haven't seen the movie, they just think like, oh, we're here trying to ruin it, or
No, not at all.
But we're lovingly poking fun at something that we're really passionate about, that we want to do justice to. And so, we like to antagonize them a little bit, but I'd like to believe that Walt Disney and anyone that's really a diehard Disney person would actually really appreciate the film and the energy and the care that we put into not only doing this one character justice, but sort of our many homages to the history, the corporate culture, the parks. I mean, it's all done with love. No one who dislikes something, it would be impossible for a person who dislikes all of these things to do the level of research needed to put all those jokes in the movie. This came out of my soul from a place of love and a little bit of, tongue-in-cheek, few loving jabs.
That's been actually one of the most fun things, is to see how much hardcore horror fans get the references and really like the Disney aspects of it. Or when they come out and we're like, what'd you think of the gore? And they're like, I loved the Disney jokes. I caught them all. Or this is my second time I saw more that I didn't catch on the first watch. That's been really fun to see.
Yeah, definitely. And just to let people know, you two were not the ones that said that. This was just a quote that somebody else said. You were not putting out any other movies, but I thought it was hilarious, and that's why I wanted to put that in there, because Snow White had so many bad reviews. But on the other hand, Screamboat, I have heard nothing but praise. And on April 8th, I had to put the date down because it might have changed since then. I guess that you posted that after a weekend in theaters, Screamboat is now ranked in top 100 most popular movies on IMDb. Is that still true?
All right. I don't know if it's still true because it fluctuates from week to week. But it definitely, since it dropped on digital, it's definitely been climbing back.
I think we were
charts.
still at about 100 this week.
Which again is just wild. I mean,
For an indie movie.
I mean, we're we made this movie because we loved making it. We love making movies like these and watching movies like these, sitting in an audience and laughing and being excited and seeing like crazy visuals. And so that other people are connecting with it and are liking it. And the charts, we can't do anything, like we can't goose those numbers, right? That's not a, if we're charting, it's because people are watching it, and that's super cool.
What's your opinion on the streaming? Because I'll tell you what I mean. Spielberg made a comment saying, with the Oscars, streaming movies are basically TV movies. It should be theatrical version only. And do you think that streaming is better? I mean, I think for me, I love going to the theater, large bucket of popcorn, large soda, sitting there, surround sound, IMAX, digital, whatever it is. I just love the theater, and I think when I'm seeing it streaming, I'll miss a lot more because I'm more distracted. Pick up the phone, which I don't want to do, and somebody talks, I miss something. So for me, I love the big theater experience. But for independent movies, is it easier, and you get probably more access for people to see your movies with Hulu, Netflix, and all the other ones, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, I totally agree with you. We're theater people too. So we
Yeah.
have a membership, we go as often as we possibly can. We see everything that we can see in the theater. And
In
when we were-
IMAX and Dolby,
yeah,
big
the
and
best. Like I want it in Dolby. I want to sit in the right spot in the theater so I can feel it.
That's me.
And when we were making Screamboat, I think that we knew we were trying to make a theatrical film. We wanted to sit in the room and laugh with other people you don't know.
and hear the mouse running
with
behind
his
you
pitter
Yes.
patter
in
and all the little
5.1, and seeing like we're really on the boat and seeing those visuals. We work so hard to make sure it would hold up at a 50-foot
right.
screen.
But as an independent film, it's really, really hard for us to be able to get widespread in theaters. So we had, way more theaters in this film than we were able to get with The Mean One, even
Yeah.
though The Mean One was in for a little bit longer. But even still, if it's not in your town and you can't make it to the theater, then you don't get to watch it. And that feels kind of disappointing. So as an independent film, we don't have the marketing budget to be able to spread it so everybody knows it's in theaters. We can't, without a lot of money, get great trailer play so that everybody knows it's coming. We can't do that. So for me, I feel like getting it into streaming where anyone can have access to see this thing we created for fans of stuff like this, I think that's awesome. But I'm also a person who accidentally finds myself scrolling on my phone and I'm like, I stopped watching. I didn't mean to. Can we take it back? I get distracted at home watching stuff too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a catch-22, I guess, for us.
The thing I'm most excited about, and that I think is the most promising, is the AVOD, the channels where you can have advertisements, where you have your Tubi, Pluto, and Peacock, because I think independent films, all movies, are fighting for your attention, right? And if a person can rent Thunderbolts or John Wick or whatever just came out, Hard Eyes, if they can rent it for $5.99, or they have to rent a movie that maybe they haven't heard about, maybe doesn't star anyone they're familiar with, is about something a little different that isn't a proven property, then which one are they going to pick? Which one are they going to spend that same amount of money on? Because in the eyes of the consumer, it has the same value, but the two movies maybe do not. So with the AVOD things, I think once you've reached the bottom of Netflix and you're like, what else am I going to watch? You're more likely to go over to Tubi and say it's free, quote unquote. I'll take a chance on maybe some actors who are up and coming, maybe an idea that's not the same old idea, that's a little different, maybe a little weird, something that maybe is not for her, but it's for me, or vice versa. And I think there's something really cool about that a lot of independent creators are on a platform where they're all judged equally. They all cost the same. It's the same, 10 ads over the course of which people have to go to the bathroom anyway. 10 ads over the course of, a 2-hour period.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of independent creators who are having a lot of success with AVOD because someone's like, well, there's nothing else to watch. The poster looks cool. I'll give this a chance. And then, it's the same as them renting it, except they're renting it by watching an ad. So I think that ability for someone that's open to something new, but maybe doesn't have the resources or the desire to bet $5.99 on renting a movie from someone they've never heard of, might stumble onto something and become a fan. And maybe they buy a shirt or they buy a DVD or, they watch your next thing. So I think, it's inherently promising, even though I prefer to see films on the big screen. I think it's creating lots of opportunities. So I'm pro streaming.
Something interesting though that I saw a person who's following on our page, and then a bunch of other people chimed in, that they said the theatrical experience for them wasn't
they didn't like that type of experience. They
Oh,
would rather be at home in the comfort of their home where they can make their cocktail as strong as they want and
yeah,
it's not going to cost them anything, and eat the food they want to eat and make it the environment they want to sit in.
yeah.
And I can appreciate that and totally get that as well.
I definitely can see both sides of the story of the coin as well. I had a good time. Bought a 12-pack of beer. Said, "All right, put on Screamboat." So I did the same thing, but then in the theater, laughing, screaming with the crowd. It was just so much fun. I'm in over in Connecticut. We have AMC, and I'm an AMC A-lister, so I pay $25 a month. I can see 3 movies a week every week. And what I do is I look for movies that I never heard of this one. Let me check this out. And everybody's like, "How'd you hear this movie?" I was like, "Because I'm paying the money. I might as well just go see it." And a lot of the movies that I see, I'm like, wow, I never probably would have seen this if I had to pay $15 for one movie. But let me check it out for $25 a month. And it's like it's always at the last theater, way down there. It's just keep walking, keep walking. But those are, to me, those are the best movies because I mean, you might have a different opinions, but like these filmmakers are hungry, they're creative. I think sometimes when they get to a certain level, there's become too apathetic, too comfortable. Not all of them. I'm generalizing. But what I'm saying is like I love these new filmmakers and they want to put out that's coming from the heart. They're passionate about it. And to me, those are always the best movies. And I love independent movies. And whenever I can see one, I check it out. And very rarely am I disappointed.
Well,
I
I
love
think
that.
there's also something too where if you are making a movie that's, I mean, ours is maybe a bad example, but if you were making a movie that's going to be dubbed in a million languages, a
Yeah,
movie that's goal is to sell toys and not rile anybody up and not have a political opinion and not make a statement and not be
yeah,
too loud or too funny or offensive, or like once you start trying to appease all of those people and you have some corporate overlord that, 5 executives sitting behind you who are like, well, don't say that, don't say this, don't do that. At the script stage, you're just watering down this thing.
yeah,
And I think some of our favorite movies, especially the early slashers that were really sort of independent and were truly the creation of like a vision, a unified vision, be it one person or a small team. Like I think that's where you get things that are really unique and something I really prescribe to. I tell a lot of people when the idea of reviews and things starts to come up, and I really do believe that a film no one can hate, no one can love, because if everyone thinks it's meh, it's nobody's favorite movie. And if it's somebody's favorite movie, it means whoever doesn't like this guy or gal is not going to like that film.
yeah,
So I really think you have to have an opinion. And some of these bigger films are awesome and they're spectacular and they've got the most amazing artistry and things that weren't possible even a year ago. But I do think there's something about an independent thing where no one cares enough to give them notes on their little film. So they just made the thing they wanted to see. And
yeah.
if I like it, then maybe one more person will like it. And I think those movies have value, and that's why you're about to see a big renaissance, I think, of independent films
I love
because
it.
the studios are making less and less movies, and that doesn't mean that they need less content. So I think we're going to see more weird small stuff that's going to come out of nowhere and is going to go viral, whatever the movie equivalent of that is.
Yeah,
And you're just getting these new waves of filmmakers. Who knew that a movie called Terrifier that
Hmm.
started as a micro budget $30,000 thing
yeah.
would grow to like a huge franchise? I mean, that's one of the most successful horror films based on nothing of the last like decade. I mean, it's
Well, and Sinners, I mean, it's not a small film, but
Yeah.
Sinners is,
Yeah.
back in IMAX, getting the hype it deserves.
based
'Cause
on
it's,
nothing,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, I saw that movie at the drive-in. I loved it. That was actually way
Cool.
better than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was about vampires, but other than that, I said I had no idea, and it blew me away. The story, there's so much more to it. So yeah,
Mhm.
I agree with you. And like you said, he's done so many big budget movies, and I think that I love independent movies. And I'll give you an example of what I mean with what you were talking about. Because a couple of years ago, I came out with a self-published book, and I joined this writing group. And one of the writers goes, "Well, who should I write for?" I said, "No, write for yourself and let the audience come to you." Same thing with movies. Don't worry about this or don't worry about that. Just write what you like. The audience is going to find you. There's going to be an audience. Obviously, there's going to be some people that don't like it. And like you said, if you write for something that everybody likes, it's nobody could do that. It's impossible.
Mhm.
There's a South Park episode. I'm sorry to cut you off, but they were doing a Christmas show, and they said, "Well, we got to take out the Virgin Mary because that's going to offend the Jews. We got to take out the Hanukkah because that's going to offend the Christians." And at the end, everybody's like, "This is boring," and they all walked out because there was nothing left to the Christmas.
Yeah,
Right, there's
that's
nothing
right.
left. Yep.
So I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, there's a James Cameron quote where I remember he said that in Avatar, an executive, when he was making the first one, was like, "Hey, you should take some of those flying scenes out because they don't move the plot forward, and we want to get the movie a little shorter." And he's like, "Yeah, but I like the flying scenes, so I think other people will like it too." He goes, and then I read a review that said someone liked the flying scenes, and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, there's someone out there who's stoned in the movie theater, like, ooh, flying scenes." So he's like, it's a good note, but I like it, and I think at least one other person will too. And I think they did okay on that Avatar.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think they did
did
all
okay.
right.
Doing-
Something
Yeah.
tells me I think they made their money back.
I don't know what the latest gross is, but I think he made a little bit of money in that movie.
Something tells me they're doing okay.
Now, Amy, you were a producer on this movie, Screamboat. What's your responsibilities as a producer?
So I ended up doing, well, Steve and I obviously live together. So we, in terms of developing the script and developing that, I obviously have a hand in that. And then in terms of like getting our crew together, helping us get the locations and all of that kind of stuff, I end up wearing a million different hats. I did the casting on Screamboat on this one.
So she
as
found
well.
all of our amazing actors.
I auditioned all of them.
Uh,
We picked all of them. So that element of it, and I think just we run the marketing, Stephen and I. So, once we're in post-production, I'm working on the marketing, I'm working on a million different, I don't know, all of the things.
There's like two different kinds of producers. I feel like there's like your executive, money, production oriented producers, and then there's like your creative producers who see something in a script or see something in an actor. What if we cast this person? Or what if instead of making the scene serious, we make it funny? And Amy really is like such a great mix of the two of those things because she's able to really know like, oh, you're going to want to take your time shooting this, or oh, that gore gag is going to get messy. Do we have the plastic to clean up? But then she's also able to really think creatively. What if we gave that character a mustache? Hey, this character is written as a man. What if we gave that role to a woman? Like things like that, where, this will make a great T-shirt. I mean, all of that stuff. Just sort of, you're underselling yourself. You're very, very good, well-rounded producer.
Such a great question because I don't know that anyone has pinpointed or like
Yeah.
so pointedly asked me what. Because I feel like, I don't know, it's just this like amalgamation of all the tasks that need to get done. Send them my way, I'll take care of it kind of thing.
And of course, everyone's just seeing you on the big screen and they're like, well, her main job is beating the hell out of Steamboat Willie. And you're like, well, no, she actually also helped us pick which rental car would be the right one. Like,
Yeah, that's why I was
Independent
curious
filmmaking.
because I know the producers, I mean, they're obviously the ones that put the money up for it and they have control. Like, bottom line is, like, I remember with Jaws, Zanuck and Brown said, you know what? He was like worried about being fired almost every other week because he was always going over budget and worried about this. And they kept on trying to rein him in. Like, come on, you're making a good movie. Don't worry about it. So, but yeah, so the producer is a lot more than just like, here you go, make a movie.
Yes. Well, we have to, as director, producer, actor, producer, we have other team members. One of our partners, Martine Malou, she's got the financier brain. She's a great compliment to us. But me and Steven, as a producer, you have to rein in the director. Like, we can't afford that, but we're the producers. So sometimes I'm like, it would be really cool. We should do that. We can't afford it, but it would be cool. We should do it. And then we're like, wait, hang on. So we have to try and like,
I think
Steven, we don't need that.
I'm like, no, but we do, but it would be awesome if we had it. And that's what I think is so great about having different kinds of producing partners, because
Yeah.
you have some partners who leave you alone and they're like, hey, I don't want to mess up the process. I'm not going to go to the chef halfway through cooking and be like, is it ready yet? That's how you end up with an undercooked burger. But at the same token, there is something great about someone that's in the kitchen with you who's like, you have to understand the sauce is the most important part. So I need a few more peppers. And you're standing right there. You put your finger in the sauce. You're like, oh yeah, it does need more peppers. So that's where like the two different sides of when Amy's like right there with me and we're in the process of making this thing together and she's seeing the cuts and seeing the script. And what do you think about this VFX shot? Something about it's not working.
Yeah.
Versus the folks who are like, let me stay out of your way and let you cook, quite literally. And then I think ultimately we can both feel confident that our stamp is on the film because it poured forth from the two of us. And it's everybody wants the thing to be awesome and everybody wants to do cool stuff, but at a certain point you do have a budget and you have
time
and you
constraint.
must stop shooting. I mean, we
Yeah.
shot one final insert I think a week before the movie was due, and we're like, okay, we're in the bathtub upstairs shooting like blood spraying on the walls, and she's like, we're done, right? That's a wrap. I said, well, she's like, no, it's due next week. You must stop
But
shooting.
then we sat in at the premiere. I think it was the premiere. There's a line in the movie that I think is a missed opportunity. It's a missed Disney reference or missed joke. And even at the premiere, I'm like, is it too late
it
to
too
go
late
back and ADR the line? Like, I would love to put it in. It drives me nuts because I can't not hear it now.
And I'm like,
And I
Amy,
can't tell you what it is. I'm sorry.
I'm
But
like,
Ah.
Amy, I think the movie is finished. We're in a theater.
Right, but-
People have bought tickets.
but do they have it overseas yet? Maybe
Exactly.
on the Blu-ray.
Right. Maybe on the Blu-ray, there's an oops, Amy's joke didn't make it in cut. Yeah, it's crazy. But that's the balance of everything. And something that I really appreciated about going from the Mean One, which is a much smaller film, to this one, which is still a small film, but we had a lot more resources, is that we agreed when we set out to make this film, the goal was not to make it fast and cheap. We did not want to be the first Steamboat Willie movie to come out. And we didn't want to just rush it and just do whatever. We really wanted to take our time. And even though we made the movie in a year, put the detail and the love into it. So like, does the movie need an animated sequence to be a Steamboat Willie film? No, but I think it's awesome. So we did it, and we spent money that could have been spent otherwise on doing the animation. Did it need a live orchestra? No. Did they need to play, like, did we need to do some of the big crazy, the real pyro and the miniatures? Like, did we have to do all of these big elaborate things, make him small? No, but I mean, all of those things I think contribute to what people are really responding to, because the flick, we just took the time to put so much love and craft into it. And a lot of artists did not try to just rush it out and get it done. They really put their love into it, and you can see it on screen.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the soundtrack because when I was growing up, I loved the soundtracks. I'd buy all the John Williams, like Close Encounters, Jaws. I'd buy John Barry's The Deep, anything. So not too long ago, I'm riding my bike. I want to listen to some music. So I put on the Screamboat soundtrack. I'm going to probably get pronounce his name incorrectly, so you can correct me. It's Yale Benamor. Is that Yale Benamor?
Yeah, Yael Benamor. That's a woman, actually.
Okay, so
A French woman.
French woman. A French woman.
She did a phenomenal job, and I loved
She's
it. I
very
was riding my bike. I was just finding more places to ride so I can finish the whole soundtrack. It was great.
She's very talented.
She did such a good job.
Yeah.
And we temped the music, temp scored the movie with Ghostbusters. And people were like, oh, really? That's kind of a cartoony, before they had seen the cut, they're like, oh, that's kind of a cartoony sound. That's a very like classic big orchestral sound. Most horror movies nowadays have like, whines and drones and things like that. And I was like, no, I want something that's like toe tapping, that's like has that Disney magic. And I think they captured it perfectly. And they, I miss scores that take a theme and revisit it, so you'll know that oh, that's the Steamboat Bill theme. Maybe it's slow, maybe it's voiced differently. And we really worked hard on it. I drove them crazy, and I think it was worth it.
It's so catchy though, that Steamboat Bill song.
Yeah.
I can hear it a million times. It's so catchy.
Yeah, no, it's great. So how did you find her?
She scored the Mean One as well.
Oh, okay.
Our producing partner, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, Martine Malul, I think they're like best friends or whatever. They're both French women, amazing artists. And she brought her to us for the Mean One. She did a fantastic job on that. And so she scored it, and her assistant, Charles, what's his name? Charles Henry.
Her partner.
Her partner.
Because they took turns. They wrote, because there was so much music and orchestral music, you have to write line after line after line, and then it has to be copied, so that we had a 30-piece orchestra play the music.
Yeah.
So when you're hearing the strings going, I mean, that's like, those are real violins. I got to sit in on a session on a Macedonian orchestra playing my horror version of Steamboat Willie. I mean, there's video of it on Instagram. It's crazy. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, what? So I get to play with the most famous cartoon character ever. I've got a live orchestra playing the music that like I didn't help write, but I mean, it's my vision sort of.
Yep.
And we're watching the movie play, and you're like, this is the dream. This is like so far beyond playing in the sandbox with your toys. I mean, this is like, everyone is in the sandbox, and the sandbox is Yankee Stadium. I mean, it's crazy.
It was very funny though. I mean, this very professional Macedonian orchestra, we can see them, on Zoom, and they're playing these like silly little hooks to the song. And I'm like, do they have any, like, they're probably like, what is this?
What is this? It sounds like a cartoon, but then is that Psycho? And we're like, yes, it's both. And that's the point.
They're like, and we'll be at the symphony later.
Right. And they're going to their gig at the symphony tonight. Yep.
It's funny because I saw a documentary entitled Score. It was all about composers. And I remember Hans Zimmer saying it's so scary because he sees the billboard, the Mission Impossible already up, and he's like, I didn't even score the fucking movie yet. What am I gonna do? How am I gonna
Yeah.
come up with-" He goes, hire John Williams, please. So with Yale, did she score the movie after it was completely done and already not out for people to watch, but like, or was she doing it? Like I saw a clip of John Williams when he was doing Star Wars, and he would take like one scene, do some music for it, then take a couple more scenes, do the music. How did she work with the orchestra or symphony?
Well, we don't record it until the film is picture locked.
Yeah.
But she definitely started writing tracks. As soon as we had a rough cut, we had a spotting session where we sat and we watched it, and she was able to see it with the Ghostbusters and oh, I see. So this part you want to be big, or this part you want to be small. But then she also contributes a lot too. We take these meetings, and she said something to me really early on in the process. Was she said, Willie, I want to make sure that the themes around Willie are more romantic than they are scary, because if any creature that can feel love can't really be evil. He can do evil things, but he's not evil at his core. And so that really sort of took me in a brighter path for the music than I was originally thinking. And then once she started sending me the tracks and the pieces, and okay, what do you think about this scene with this song with digital instruments? I'm like, wow, that's great. And she's like, and that's an orchestra track. They're going to play that with the score, with the live instruments. And it all just sort of came together. And once she brought on the second composer, Charles, who did some things, he did one of my favorite cues, the Happy Birthday cue, where the song for Happy Birthday is playing in the low the low register while Willie's whistling. I'm like,
yeah.
it's such a fun. I don't think I asked him to do that, but I'm pretty sure he did that on his own. And I heard it and I was like, perfect, no notes, print it.
Yeah, no, the finished product came out perfect. So I know as a creator, you're watching like I should have done this, I could have added that, but I know you are happy with it, but be completely happy with it. There's no disappointments there. And as you mentioned, now that we have DVDs, Blu-rays, you could do like an extra feature, like this is what we were thinking about afterwards.
Or save it for a sequel. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way, not giving anything away, the way it ends, I could definitely see a sequel, maybe like, Terrifier, a couple movies down there, turns into a regular recurring character in other movies.
There are, if people want more Screamboat, there's definitely more stories to tell on the Staten Island Ferry with Steamboat Willie.
Well, I don't know if my opinion counts, but I want more Steamboat Willie. I want more Screamboat.
It counts. It counts.
So I'll put you down for maybe. Just mark
Yes.
that right there.
You mentioned that the movie is international, and I want your opinion on this because it must be so much fun to watch it in different languages, seeing you up there and somebody else doing your voice. I saw an interview with Tarantino one time. He said like watching Pulp Fiction one time was watching a campfire where all the voices sounded the same and it's doing the voice. So what was it like? Did you see any of the international versions of Screamboat yet?
We have trailers for at least 5 or 6 of them that are dubbed.
I've seen the dubbed Latin America, one of the Latin American ones and one of the Russian ones. So
Yeah.
I've definitely seen them. Yeah.
And we've seen the Polish trailer, the German trailer, French, and it's so, what's actually such a funny experience is hearing myself be dubbed in other languages in somebody else's voice.
Yeah.
So that it's me and my body and me speaking, but it's not my voice coming out. And I feel like all of them have cast like a much more mature voice than mine. So I'm like, that's not what I sound like.
Is that what you think I sound like in German?
It's very funny. It's a very trippy experience.
And they're like, what do you think? I said, well, I don't speak German, so good
Seems
casting.
good.
I don't know. It's a woman. Their lips match, so mission accomplished.
That is
It's
funny.
cool.
The movie is unrated. Did you want a rating or did you really care less about that?
No, what we wanted to do, I mean, the movie is a splat stick is sort of
Yes.
the word we've been using, he's a murder Muppet and we wanted there to be so much blood. Like, what if Terrifier was intentionally funny? Like, we wanted there to be so much blood that it was over the top and silly. And like, that's where the jokes came from. Because I feel like sometimes horror comedy is like not enough of either thing. It's either not enough of the jokes, or maybe there's too much horror, it's not funny enough, or it's too funny and not enough horror. So we said, what if the jokes were the horror? And so that's why all of the kills, while gory and technically like in your face, are all played for laughs. And if you like a serious movie that's going to leave you scarred, this is not that, but you're definitely going to want to look away because all of our joke kills are really over the top and they're gory for sure.
Well, it reminds me of one of my favorite movies growing up was Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. The
Yeah,
first one,
yep.
it was the same thing, unrated, but the first one was more serious, but the second one was just slapstick, Three Stooges. I mean, he even said his biggest inspiration is Mo, Larry, and Curly. But I just love the fact that it was just over the top, all out gore, and it's fun. And we mentioned there's going to be an audience for that, and now with streaming and everything, it's easier to get more people to see it that can't make it into the theater because of their age. But so I'm glad you did unrated. I just wasn't sure because I know some people fight with the MPAA and are like, no, I want an R rating. Come on, we can do this. We'll cut this out. But talking to you two, it seems like you really didn't care. You're like, no, we're keeping that scene in.
No, it doesn't, because it doesn't, the reason why you'd want to go from unrated to R is it limits your audience of who can go see it. But nowadays, it being unrated is a badge of honor. People don't think it's pornographic or, that you've made something that's unwatchable. If they want to see something that's outrageous, the fact that it's unrated is good. So it actually doesn't.
I'd like to think some of those Minecraft tickets might have been Screamboat tickets,
right?
And they snuck right in.
And they snuck right in, although they probably like Minecraft, so they might.
Yeah, that's also probably true.
Well, it's like with Tipper Gore with the putting the labels on records years ago. It's like, oh, you can't listen to this record. I want 2 of those. It's the same thing. Like, wait, this isn't real. But I want to see what's so bad about this movie. Let me check out Screamboat. Yeah, 2 tickets to Minecraft.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
I know with Terrifier, they said there was they believed Wild Robot sales.
There was an
bumped a little bit
on the second weekend or something.
Yeah, where the Wild Robot sales bumped, even though it had been in theaters for 4 weeks at that point, and they think it's because kids bought tickets to Wild Robot and snuck into Terrifier, and that's kind of funny.
It is funny.
Well, some of my friends, sons and daughters, they did that. They're like, I want to take a ticket. Well, no, you're not old enough. Let me buy a ticket for this, and they snuck in. So yeah, I do know people who actually did that. And a couple of them got caught, but others didn't, and they snuck in. I want your opinion on this because I interviewed several people. One worked with Clint Eastwood, and he was saying that Clint Eastwood does one take, it's done, he wants to keep it fresh. And then I read other articles, about Stanley Kubrick, who did over 100 takes with Jack Nicholson in The Shining. So where are you on that scale?
Amy, where am I on that scale?
I think we usually get maybe 4 max. Right, I would say.
I tend to do
2 to 3.
I tend to do 3-ish. I think it's like my average.
Yeah.
Because some of them entail gore, or in some cases, either David as Willie or the puppet. We would do a take that didn't have any of the special things. That was like just kind of a performance take, and then we'd do another one that, okay, now the blood spray is happening, and now we're clean up as much as we can. We do it again, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. As an actor, I feel like there are definitely times where I'm like, let me do it one more time. I felt something. Let me try one more time.
Yeah.
And then there are times where I'm like, we can keep doing it, but I feel like I got it that second time, and now it's like running out of energy or something.
And I shoot with multiple cameras as well. So, I mean, if I do 3 takes, it's technically 6 shots, so that that helps a lot. And there's also a world in which, because I'm very familiar with post-production, if it's close, but I can make it work in the edit, then sometimes if I do one more take now, I'm going to lose it off of the end of the day. And you do that 5 times, you've lost a whole scene. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely that balancing act. They say, I heard someone say it's Gone with the Wind in the morning, and it's like, what was it? Gone with the Wind in the morning and Apocalypse Now, as the sun sets. And so it really is having to just keep that good pace and making sure the actors have the opportunities, if they want to try it again, that they can, or if we didn't quite get it, everyone's not always locked in, especially when you do complicated or trick shots. The performance might be perfect, but the camera might drift a little bit. So it's really just finding that balancing act and making sure that you can walk away feeling like we got it. We didn't just do it. I think we got it. Let's see when we cut it together. No, we walked away. We got it. And we didn't shoot too much, because you will feel it at the end of the day. And then at the end of the week, you're like, here's all the things you missed. And I get that report. And that's an unpleasant document.
So do you do a lot of rehearsals before start filming?
I try to. We rehearse, as many of the dialogue scenes as we can. in a rehearsal space. We
Yeah.
did some rehearsals on the ferry, which was great, bringing people to the boat. I let them see it when they're not in costume, they're not hot. There's no one standing around waiting for the hurry up and act. But then I like to run the scenes. I like to run my sets like a construction crew, right? So I kind of feel like one team comes in, they set the nail down, the other team comes in, they hit it with the hammer, and we just like keep going as we're like sort of assembling this house. And I think rehearsing with the cast on set is so important. Then rehearsing with the cast for the crew, then they go and they get their makeup and their wardrobe and they get all set while the crew sets all the lights up. We run it one more time and then we shoot again. So that's kind of how I work. It goes block, light, rehearse, shoot, and start over is sort of the order in which I go. And it I think it works. It gives everyone time to be on the same page. So by the time we press record, we know what we're shooting. We've all seen it. They're standing in the right place. The lights are where they're going to stand, and then there's room to play and be spontaneous. Or I have a crazy idea and they're like, well, let's try it. And drive the assistant director crazy.
Well, that's a great segue because I wanted to talk to you about that. It's like, do you allow your actors to be creative once they start to know their character and veer off from the script and be a little bit more spontaneous and do a little improv?
I do. I definitely do. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know the relationships of the characters until the actors breathe life into them. So there's like something that Amy and Jesse Posey did, who plays Pete,
Yep.
where they started off and the script is written that one is snarky and one's kind of a stoner. But then as time went on, it became more clear that they had a chemistry together by both being blue collar workers who had experience working for the city and dealing with people and all that stuff. So it actually made more sense for this snarky comments that you were throwing to Pete
Yeah.
to be like loving jabs of like bonding of like, oh, we're the same kind of person, than her just being mean or those lines coming out of nowhere. So sometimes it's performance based, and then sometimes it is, this line doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. Can we try something different?
Yeah.
And I always let them try, and sometimes I use it.
Yep. Did you ever have an issue where one loves to go off script all the time and another one likes to stick to the script, and then when the other one goes off script, like, I really don't know what to say to that because that's not what I'm supposed to say? And how would you manage that? Both of you.
I think Stephen made it really clear at the beginning of we're at least starting the take as it's written, exactly as it's written.
Yeah.
Or when we're rehearsing, we're doing it exactly as is written, and then we discussed, throwing in, I feel like I'd maybe say it like this, or because we ended up shooting something slightly different yesterday, then now this doesn't quite make sense. So can we adjust in this way? So I think at least on this film, we discussed all of it first.
Yeah.
So even when we like improvised or one of us threw a button on the end or something like that, I think everyone was on the same page. And at least for our trio, which is the character Selena, played by Allison Patel, and Pete, Jesse Posey, that with my character, the three of us were in so many scenes together that I felt like we could just have a dialogue from our character's perspective, whether it was written or not. We didn't do this, but like we could have just spoken as our characters in a scene and been like on the same page.
Yeah. I want to move on to The Mean One because I love that movie as well. And for people who don't know, it's The Grinch, but it's not called The Grinch. It's just The Mean One. Did you have to do that because of the copyright?
I've never heard that G word before. We only
Okay.
know the
Nope.
mean one.
All right, well, let me say it has nothing to do with The Grinch. It's all about the mean one.
That's right.
This
The
happens to be
loving-
green. So
Everyone's favorite green grouch in a Santa suit. That's what we call them.
okay, well, I apologize for that, but it's a great revenge movie on the green one. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
So
That's
the question
right.
I have for you is, why did it take 8 to 9 years to begin shooting The Mean One before you had the idea? Once you had the idea.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that you always have to pitch multiple things. You come out and you say, oh, today I'm really pitching this movie, but you have to have 3 ideas. So this was just something that was in my head. I've had that idea since I went to Halloween Horror Nights in Dr. Seuss land in Florida, and there was smoke all through the Dr. Seuss land, and there's no monsters or scary people in there. It was just nighttime, and all the Dr. Seuss stuff was shadowy and weird. But they'll never let you make this movie. You can't even say the word without getting in trouble. Is there a way to make this movie without saying the word? And then, so I've had this idea was just around and around, and I had a different much more salacious title. And we made this fake trailer. I had a commercial canceled, but I still had the crew booked. So I said, let's just make a fake trailer. I'll put my favorite jokes from the mean one all together, and we'll shoot a short film, and it'll be trailer format for a movie that does not exist. And the trailer was so popular and worked so well that the other producers I know were like, well, you have to make this movie now.
Or people kept saying, where can I see the movie?
Right. Where can I see it? We're like, it doesn't exist. I'm like, no, but I saw the trailer. I'm like, the trailer, it's the style. There is no movie. And I said, well, if we were to do it, I guess we'd have to do it like this. And maybe we just make the joke. We can't say the word. And, we ended up shooting the movie, and the rest, as they say, is history. It was supposed to be just a funny, weird little experiment that dropped onto a streamer, and, that's fun. I'm glad we did it. Mission accomplished. Made for couch change that we found between the cushions, and 14 of my friends went around the woods. And now here we are, 5 weeks in theaters, played all around the world, dubbed in multiple languages, and led us to Screamboat. So it's truly, we lead a very strange life, and it's very, very
That
cool.
was a wild ride, though.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Well, once again, the Robert Rodriguez connection,
Yeah.
just like with El Mariachi, same exact thing. So I love hearing stories like this. And it just in the trailer, did David play the mean one?
Not in the concept trailer, no, because in the
No.
concept trailer you couldn't really see
Okay.
the creature.
I played a different character also. And then we decided we were going to make the feature. And I think, was it one of the guys from Fuzz on the Lens? They had us watch Terrifier 1, and we watched Terrifier 1.
Because 2 hadn't come out yet.
2 hadn't come out yet. And we're like, yeah, he could be our guy.
And then we booked him, and he played we found out his history with the
So
character, and he breathed such life into the character that keeping him in the shadows was like, we're like, oh no, why did we shoot all this footage of him in the shadows when his performance is
Mhm.
great? So that was something we really wanted to do when we did Screamboat. I'm like, once he's out of the shadows, and it's all David all the time. And the movie is just so much fun because it's his movie, right? And he owns that character.
Oh my God, yeah, definitely. He's definitely no Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. Bring him out of the shadows.
That's right. Bring him out.
And your character, Amy, I love. You must have so much fun playing the villain.
So much fun.
Yeah.
It was really a very good time. I mean, the mayor is mean.
Yes, I
She's
love.
a very mean lady.
I'd
She
vote for
has
you.
her reasons.
Yep.
She has her reasons. She's trying to save the town at whatever cost. But yeah, no, that was really, really fun. It was very fun. And it was, Steven gave me free reign to just be as salty and nasty in a couple of those scenes as possible. And I had a good time. I feel like it's nothing like me as a person, so it was fun to play.
Yeah, well, that's why they call them actors, is you get to
Yeah.
That's
play
right.
something you're not, which I love. So, what year did that movie come out?
22.
Mhm.
22, and you said it went viral. It just became a huge hit. And was that your first big hit that you had, or did you have? Or no, you.
I've worked.
Yeah, sorry.
We've worked on other big projects, but this is the first one, like budget-wise and stuff. But this was the first one that was really in the cultural zeitgeist, and the thing that I think really
It was
changed our careers.
the
for sure.
most viewed independent film trailer of 2022.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and I forgot. I did mention in my intro all the different things you did, like the TV miniseries, Night Watch, and you also did Balance of the Force, which won many awards. So, where can people find those on YouTube? Where can they see those?
You can find Balance of the Force is not publicly available, is
No,
it?
it's
It
not.
should
It's a
be.
concept, Star Wars
It was
concept
a
piece.
Star Wars concept piece that was supposed to. It was all geared up to do some big things right as COVID was hitting, and it sort of derailed it. And then Night Watch streams
On
on
IFT. It's
on
on a
IFT.
streaming service.
It's
Yeah.
it's on a streaming service, but we
Like an
should
indie film. streaming
yeah, we should revamp that one. They're both such fun action, genre
genre
pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw clips from it, and I want to see it. Like, obviously, it was May 4th was recent, so May the 4th.
Yes, and
I saw. Yeah.
I shared that clip. That's funny that you ask about it, because I shared it because I realized I don't think we've shown any of this footage really to anyone, because it didn't get the premiere it was supposed to have. The 501st was booked. They were going to come in costume.
Right.
it
We
was
were gonna have
this whole thing.
stormtroopers at the premiere.
And then it just it took a turn. But I'm gonna keep posting some of those little clips of it, and then eventually we should just put it out.
Mhm.
Well, I did see that one best fan film at was it the Gen Con Film Festival. I think
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that year I mean we did
We did conventions, we did film festivals.
yeah,
all over.
Gen
It's a
Con
Star
was a
Wars film. Who
great
doesn't want to see Star
yeah.
Wars? See a Jedi and a bounty hunter beat the mess out of
Mhm.
each other. It's so fun.
yeah. One thing I cannot find anywhere, maybe this wasn't released, but it sounds hilarious. And it was funny because when I was looking up your name to do my research on you, it kept on coming up Amy Schumer. And
Oh,
then,
yes.
so I saw that you have something, what it's like when you're Amy Schumacher and not Amy Schumer. Now, what is that?
Yes. Yes. So for many years, I was part of an all digital sketch comedy group called Foreplay Comedy. And we made under 7-minute sketches, like comedy sketches. And one of them was Schumer versus Schumacher. And so I mean, you can understand what the premise is. It's,
Yeah.
everywhere I go, which still happens. I mean, I made that short film in, I don't like 2016 or something. And every single day, somebody still says, "Oh, I read that wrong. I thought you were Amy Schumer," or "Oh, we were expecting to see Amy Schumer walk in." And so it's that until like finally at the very end, I use it for my advantage to get, dinner reservations.
Even now at conventions, people are like, "Oh, are you Amy Schumer?" And or like, "Oh, I love your comedy spot."
not.
And Amy's like, "I
That's
don't do comedy. That's
And
not me."
I don't want people to feel bad. So sometimes I try and just like play along until they walk
yeah.
away. And then it gets too detailed. I'm like, I have to confess, like, that is not my joke. I am not her. We do not look anything alike.
I know. I don't think so either. I would never ever think that. But I just thought it was funny because every time I tried to get information on you, that would be the first name that popped up, and I have to go down
Yeah.
and say, "Oh." But then by the time I was done, it's like your name was right on top. It's like, all right, there it is.
Ah,
There you
good.
go.
Thank you.
Take that
Yeah.
on TV.
Well,
I'm
as I mentioned,
knockoff Amy Schumer.
well, I mentioned you're a stunt woman as well.
Yes.
How does one become a stunt person?
I have, even since I was very young, have just been an athlete and wanted to do stunts. And so I found myself gravitating toward action roles and action things like that, and taking more classes and really loving sword fighting and that sort of thing. So as a producer, I started making films where I got to do the stunts and be the actor, not just double. So I'm not a stunt double. We have friends who can do some crazy stuff I definitely can't do and train in different ways than I can, or than I do. So I think I call myself more of an action actor or stunt performer where I can perform my own stunts, but I'm not going to double, the person who falls from the building and lands on the horse on fire or whatever. That'd be a really cool stunt, though.
I would
just
see
came
that.
up with something
I
very
would
good.
see that. Why would you fall from a building and land on a horse
On fire.
while on fire? I don't think the horse would
I
be
feel
killed.
like John Wick fell from a building and rode a horse away. So
No, he fell from a building and he rode a horse. He was not on fire, and those two things did not happen back to back. But yes, they did happen in the same movie, which is inherently preposterous because all of those should have been fatal. Every single one.
Well, what I thought was funny is you were talking about that. I saw the writer and director hat go on. It's like, haha, I think
Right.
that happened.
You can have that one.
I
Flaming
can't wait
man
to see
falls
that in
from
the
a
next
building onto
movie.
a horse.
Yeah, you're like a regular Tom Cruise or Zoe Bell.
yes, that's a real compliment. I'll
I
take
know
that.
it is. Have you ever gotten hurt doing a stunt on a film?
Not severely, but definitely on one of our Star Wars fan films, things went sort of funky at the very beginning, and I landed in a spot that I wasn't supposed to land, and my scene partner swung her sword full force because no one was around, so she wasn't pulling it, and I can still feel where it hit me in my elbow, and I think I dropped to my knees. Like there was no keep the take going. I think I just fell on the floor immediately,
Oh,
and I was totally fine, but it like hurt in that way
Because it like
that
hit the bone and the
it
bone
like hit
vibrated.
right on
We
the
all heard it. We're like, oh, that.
but
Are you
that's the
good?
worst.
She's
I mean,
like,
some bruises and cuts and scrapes on Screamboat. The edge of the thing I kept backing into turned my, one of my legs a little purple, but not because of like being injured. It's just like that's part of it, of the repetitiveness of you have to be able to do it 3, 4, 5 times. So just being able to do it once isn't going to get you what you need. So you've got to be able to back into the thing multiple times to get the shot.
Yep. Now, Stephen, for you, did you always want to be a filmmaker growing up?
I don't know about always. Definitely since I was like 8 or 9, I started making stop motion movies. With the Legos, taking one picture at a time. It's a great way to keep an only child busy. So I started there, And then from once, that's like a special effect in and of itself, it's animation. And then once I got a video camera, I started doing like these VFX tests where I would shoot these little shots and they didn't really have a story. And then while I was shooting these special effects tests, it became clear that like, oh, this special effect's not working. So let's shoot a joke or something, or let's shoot a dialogue scene. So I ended up accidentally making a movie that stitched the story of my special effects test together and made some people laugh, and I was hooked. And I'm like, oh, that's it. Let's do this from now on. And I've been making movies ever since.
Who were some of your biggest inspirations growing up? Who were some of your favorite filmmakers that said, I want to do that?
Oh, definitely. Honestly, George Lucas, James Cameron, and Robert Rodriguez. I mean, once I went to film school and I was reading that book, I was like, oh, this guy did it because he had just done it at that point.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this.
Spielberg.
Yeah, I love Spielberg movies, but I didn't aspire to be Spielberg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I aspired to make Terminator. I was like, oh, like I loved Star Wars. I'm like, oh, I want to be the George, whatever his name is. And then Robert, once I started being aware of stuff, I love Spielberg, but I'm not like I don't aspire to be Spielberg. Whereas like if I could make one movie as good as Terminator, I would die. That'd be it. Go to vet school or something.
Well, you know what? I think you already did. So that's
there
my
you go.
opinion.
I appreciate that.
I love your movies, and I mean, I've seen the two main ones, The Mean One and Screamboat so far. I want to see, what's the other one? Bury Me
Twice.
I
Bury Me
want to check
Twice
that
is
out.
super fun. It's like a mix of Sin City and The Walking Dead. It's really fun. Same writers as The Mean One. So it's film noir and it's comic booky, and I did all the VFX on that movie myself. So that's a fun one. You should check it out.
Yeah. Well, I was doing my research on you, and I want to know what movie you did with this. It's, when you directed your first feature film within 6 months of moving to LA and sold it for a worldwide distribution before it was even finished being edited.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
What movie was that?
That was a film called, I think they changed the title a few times where they keep selling it. I think it's called Never Leave Alive, and it's an adaptation of The Most Dangerous Game. And it was an idea I had in film school. This is my first IP because it was in the story's in the public domain. That was my first adaptation. I'm like, oh, here's a famous story that has been made before, but never like this. And I thought, what if we made it like a real hardcore action flick? And it was like two brawny dudes in the woods, like chasing each other around. And that was my first movie starring a pro wrestler, John Hennigan, Johnny Nitro, as he's known. I don't know what he's known as now. That's a fun one, but you should check out, if you like what I'm doing now, you should check out Bury Me Twice for sure.
No, I'm going to be definitely checking that out. And also, I didn't realize that you were a musician. You sang in multiple bands performing all around the country.
Yes, that is true. There is a chance. I almost ended up singing on the soundtrack for Screamboat, but we ran out of time. Maybe if there's another one, my voice may find its way out there.
I think it's why the music of Screamboat's so good. He's very musically inclined. Like he hears it really well and can communicate with the musicians and the composer of exactly what he wants in a way that's very musical.
Hopefully the notes translate. They get very specific. And I've definitely had some people be like, you can't give them notes like that. I'm like, well, I'm the director, so they're going to get musical notes that are musical.
Yeah.
And Patrick's, our editor, is a musician too. So he cuts to music, really, not just to the music, but his cutting has a pacing that's clearly musical. And I think it attributes to our action set pieces not feeling like a thing that happens, but that it's building up to something and then it pays off and then has a moment to breathe and it segues. Like everything he does is very musical. So we're very aligned in that.
Yeah. It's funny because in that documentary score I was telling you about, one of the composers said after the movie was over, he would go into the bathroom, see if people were humming his theme. They wanted to see how catchy the music was. And I definitely was humming some of the songs from Screamboat after it was over. It's a small world. It just gets...
No, that's not us. We didn't do that one.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't do that one.
All right, I take that back. No, I know. I take that back too. No Grinch, no that one. But anyway, but I know his theme song, and I can't hum it, but it was...
You got to whistle it. That's the thing.
It's tough. Whistling is not easy.
No, I can't whistle at all. Not whistle at all. So for the two of you, the movie came out. You're having so much fun doing the conventions, doing the escape room, doing the hot wings, the drinking game. What's next for Stephen and Amy?
Ooh.
We have a couple of projects up our sleeve that we have been toying with and talking about. They're in the same genre, horror comedy, little bit of action. So we're shopping them around right now. We're talking to the proper people. We've got some great actors that are, starting to buzz around. So we'll see.
Yes, unfortunately, we can't talk about or announce the new stuff that we have coming, but everything that we have we're developing is big and it's funny and it's action and horror oriented. Just fun, popcorn chewing, beer drinking, good times at the movies.
All right. Well, can't ask for anything better than that. So I guess if you can't say anything now, I'm just going to have you both come back on the show when you can talk about it.
There you go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic. Lock it in.
So is there anything that we did not talk about that we missed that you want to mention?
If you want to stay up to date with what we do, make sure to check us out on social media.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. At Screamboat Movie across all socials. The movie's available on VOD and Blu-ray and DVD. And so if you like it, rating it on IMDb, rating it on Rotten Tomatoes, all of that stuff helps as independent filmmakers. People look at that stuff, so it really helps us a lot. And keeping the word of mouth going, that's our best weapon to keep it going.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to follow us personally, I'm at Stephen LaMorte on all my social media, and
I'm Amy Schumacher official.
Schumacher.
Schumacher. There's a mocker in there.
Schumacher, not Amy
She's
Schumacher.
one bad mocker.
Mocker.
Schumacher.
That's right. Thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Oh yeah, you two are great. And I said I love the movies. I'm definitely looking forward to everything else you come out with. I want to go back and check out some the other movies that I missed. So keep up the great work.
Much.
Oh, you're very
We
welcome.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Fun.
All right. Well, that wraps up the latest episode of the Claus Corner. A huge thanks goes out to the extremely talented power couple, Stephen LaMorte and Amy Schumacher, for taking time out of their extremely busy schedule to be a guest on my show. Thank you both very much. Another huge thanks goes out to editor extraordinaire John Bristol, the award-winning Elmwood Productions, for always doing a superb job editing this show each and every week and making it available to all on YouTube and Patreon. I am also extremely grateful to Rob Bull and Al Coles for all they do to make my show available on Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, as well as a cable station in Connecticut. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.
From the frenetic mind of author Rich Sear. 5 terrifying short stories, now available in one collection. Confessions of a Frenetic Mind. 5 tales of blood-curdling terror, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.